Welcome to the Nate KG podcast, where I talk with jump ropers of all skill levels with different styles, geographical locations, and fitness goals to answer the simple but all-encompassing question, what is jump rope to you? In this episode, I talk with Michelle Fongson. Michelle is a world champion jump roper and one of my early jump rope mentors. Not only does she have extensive jump rope knowledge, but she also has a degree in kinesiology with a very detailed and rigorous understanding of body movement and function. Michelle has used this knowledge in all of her coaching, including working with CrossFit athletes, a competitive jump rope team, and more. We really dive into her coaching philosophy and get very detailed with the methods she's used to train her athletes in competition. In addition to this, we discuss mindset a lot, specifically the thought process and mental reminders of training to win, because of course, she is a world champion. I had a real blast talking with Michelle, and I'm super excited for all of you guys to listen to this episode. It's full of really great stuff. And as usual, the show notes can be found over at natekg.com. And without further ado, let's jump into my conversation with Michelle Fongson. Michelle, how's it going? Thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Nate. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, this is going to be a super fun conversation. I can already tell. And I think probably a good place to get started is to do maybe a little bit of a history on you with jump rope and kind of, where you started with jump rope and how you've kind of come along with it.
Yeah, the story. So my story starts when I was 6 years old, and the American Heart Association, they promote physical fitness to kids through Jump Rope for Heart. And so they came to school when I was a kid, and they did a little performance, and I pretty much became, really deeply invested, obsessed with jump rope. I also had a babysitter that was on the jump rope team that I competed on, which was Jumping for Joy. And so my mom found me jump rope classes. And then I started with the level 1 and level 2 classes, and I was competing by the time I was 7 years old. And I competed all the way through pretty much college. College was a little bit off and on, but I competed all the way through college. And then after college, I came back home. I went to San Diego State, and I came back home to Santa Clara, California. And that's where I continued a little bit more of competition, and then also pursued a coaching career.
Nice.
And so, yeah, jump rope has taken me all over the place.
That's awesome.
All over the world, lots of different competitions. But yeah, that's where I started, was competitive at the age of 7.
Wow. Okay. There's so much that I'm ready to just jump into, but let's start with coaching. So
yes.
How did you come to coach the team that you were coaching, and which team was that?
Yeah. Okay. That's a great story. So my background is in kinesiology. That's my undergraduate degree. And when I came back home to Santa Clara, my goal was to pursue a master's in acupuncture. I wanted to combine Western and Eastern medicine together. And then at the same time, I was still involved with jump rope. And so I was showing up to jump rope practice, twice a week. And then my coach sat down with me for dinner one day, and she, asked what I was up to, and she asked if I wanted to take on the team. And she was looking to retire, and she'd been doing this for like 25, almost 30 years at this point.
Is that Cindy Joy?
Yep, that is Cindy Joy. You're right.
Nice.
The Cindy Joy. Yeah. And so she asked if I wanted to take the team on, and I was like, okay, let's do this. so she handed it over to me, and that's when I actually stopped school because of that. I started taking down school a little bit by little bit. I went from full-time to part-time to like quarter time. And by the end, I was just like, okay, it's obvious that I love coaching. And so I pursued that as my full-time career. So from there, I started coaching. Jump rope was my main source of income, but then I also coached recreational gymnastics and CrossFit as well. And that's how my coaching career began. I mean, before that too, you go to jump rope camps, and you staff on the junior staff. So I'd had like teaching experience, but when after college was really when I took it full force to a coaching career.
So, yeah, can I ask you about how you learned to coach and how you developed your coaching philosophy?
Yeah,
Hmm.
no, that's a great question. So let's see, I'll bring it back to when you start as a competitive jump roper, you start around 7. If you start around 7, what by the time you get to middle school and high school is when you start teaching a lot more of jump rope. And I'm sure you know this as well.
Hmm.
So we would go to different elementary schools and we would teach after school programs, or we would teach their jump rope for heart days. So from a young age, I was exposed to teaching and coaching jump rope. And then and then you go to staff different jump rope camps. There's various different jump rope camps around the world, and I would coach or teach at maybe one or two of those a year throughout high school, and then after that, through college, that's where I met Melinda. You know Melinda,
Yes. Hmm.
of the Coronado Speed Spinners. And so I started getting involved with the Coronado Speed Spinners in San Diego, which is where I went to college. And that's really where I started developing a real love and passion for coaching and teaching. And it was really just based off of having fun. Like that was really the philosophy. Like, I mean, you know, Melinda.
Yep.
Melinda and I we just wanted to have fun. And that's where I think I started my love and passion for teaching and coaching and working with people, and that carried on to when I came back home for acupuncture school, and that's where when I started coaching the soul jumpers. So Jumping for Joy became Soul Jumpers, and and I think one thing that I really loved was to see those little light bulbs go off with the kids.
Yes.
To see,
Hmm.
you know, a kid that may not believe that they could do a trick, to do a double under or a frog or a TJ, and for them to actually realize that they can do it and then execute it. And that's probably one of my favorite parts of coaching and teaching is having someone else believe in you, even though you may not believe in yourself. I think is it's so important to have. And that's something that I had as a younger jumper. That's something that I had from mentors mentoring me throughout my lifetime. And I think that's something that is really important that I carry with me every day too, when I coach people or when I teach people, is believing them and then having fun.
Yeah. 100%. So you said you also coached recreational gymnastics and CrossFit,
I
right?
did. Yeah.
Were there any parallels between coaching those three disciplines, and were there any major differences?
Um, I think that the thing that I've learned from coaching anything or teaching anything is that you're really just working with a person, right? And it's somebody that is putting themselves in a vulnerable spot. They don't know how to do something, and it's your job as a coach or a teacher to help them understand that they can. And I think that's the common theme that I found amongst coaching CrossFit, coaching jump rope, coaching gymnastics, is that mindset of believing in yourself that you can do it, and having a coach that encourages that and fosters a positive environment for you to learn that mindset. That mindset's really important. And I would say that's the most common thing that I've learned amongst all three of those disciplines. And I don't know if there's any particular differences. I think that you will always see people be competitive with themselves or one another. You'll see people comparing themselves to one another or to themselves, and you'll see negative self-talk or negative talk, and you get that anywhere, right? You have personalities that are more type A. You have more personalities that are quiet. So you've got all those different personalities, but you see that everywhere you go. And I think that's what I really love about coaching and teaching and working with people is it's the same. People are people.
Yeah. That's so true. What was is there like one specific event or moment in coaching that stands out as kind of your highlight moment?
Ooh, highlight moment. Wow, that's a hard
Yeah, so
question.
I'm kind of just throwing this one out there just to see if something comes up, but I'll buy you a little bit of time and I'll kind of give you a story on my end while you think about
Yeah.
it. Because I
Yeah,
remember
sure.
going to the CrossFit regionals a few years ago, and when we do vending with RX Smart Gear, we let people try out the ropes, come in, we help them out, get them sized up, just do a little bit of jumping and coaching, just really quick. And there
Yeah.
was this young kid, probably like 9 or 10 years old, with his dad, and he came up to the booth and said, "Oh man, I want to go get sized up and do like a double under." And his dad like looked at him and said, like, "No, like you're not going to be able to do that." And I was kind of taken aback. I was like, wow, like that's okay, and I kind of went up to both of them and said, "Hey, I mean, you can come in, like I'll teach you a double under in like 5 minutes. Like you'll get it, because you know how
Yeah.
that is with kids. Like they pick stuff up
Yeah.
so
They
fast."
like a little sponge. Yeah.
Exactly. And the dad obviously wasn't too familiar with jump ropes. He didn't know the process. And his dad kind of laughed. And I was like, "No, come on in, kid." And I don't know what his name is, but we'll call him Kid. And so he comes in and I get him sized up, and he's kind of a little bit shy. He was excited, then he was a little bit shy because his dad kind of put him down a little bit. And so we get working on a double under, and he gets it, like 5-10 minutes because he's a kid. Throws the double under, and he's like, "Did I just do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you did it. Congrats, congratulations." Give him a high five. And he looks at his dad and he goes, "In your face." And I was really excited. It's kind of a funny little
Oh,
moment, but I felt really good. This kid, like you said, that light bulb had that moment
yeah.
of, someone didn't think they could do it, and then he just made it happen, and it was super exciting. That's kind of one of my
I love
moments
that.
that I like the best.
Yeah. I love that story. I think that moment of, yeah, thank you for sharing that. The moment of, not knowing if you can do something, putting yourself out there and then doing it. It's such a good feeling for everybody, right?
Yeah.
For the dad, for you, for the kid, all around. I think it's such a special thing to connect with people in a way when with that coach mentor student kind of relationship. I think it's a very special thing for me.
Hmm.
And I think a scenario that definitely sticks out in my head is teaching someone their first pull up. I know this isn't jump rope related, but I did used to coach CrossFit. And I had a client that came in. She came into my 6 a.m. CrossFit class like every single day. She was so committed, but she was probably the most like uncoordinated, not body
Yep.
aware person I think I've ever
Yeah.
worked with. And like I clearly remember trying to teach her a dip once, and I was trying to describe to her how to bend her elbows for a dip, and she couldn't figure it out. And
Wow.
I had
Okay.
to like put her in the position. But she showed up every single day,
Hmm.
working on her skills. She was so patient. I mean, of course, there were days that she got frustrated, but
Right.
by the time she was doing CrossFit for, I think it was about a year and a half, she got her very first pull up, and it was to see her so excited, and for me to actually be there for it
Hmm.
it just brought everything full circle. Like that's what it's all about, is helping people believe in themselves and helping them understand that they are capable of always more than they think they are capable of.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
And
such a
that's
great point.
definitely one. Yeah, and it's such an important thing to remember. Like it's just a reminder to me too, like that moment that I saw her get that pull up, it's just a reminder to me that this is why we're patient. This is why we go through life connecting with people, because we are always capable of more than we think we are, and we just have to believe it and do it.
Yeah, and put in that work day in and day out,
Yeah.
and then trust the
Hmm.
process of sometimes or a lot of the time you're going to show up and it's going to suck. It's not going to be
Yeah,
necessarily
yeah.
fun, but those are the
Yes.
small incremental gains that you have to make every day.
Yeah. Yep. The growth mindset, right?
Yes, man.
Hmm.
So I want to take a little bit of a backtrack here to
Yeah.
coaching the team. I'm really
Yeah.
curious, like very as a bit detailed in terms of how are you training your team? What were your practices like? How did you structure them?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I'm a big spreadsheet nerd. Anybody that you talk to will tell you that I love spreadsheets, Google spreadsheets. And so I structured my practices um, pretty much down to like the 10 to 5 minute mark. I would kind of structure them.
This makes me very
And
excited because I'm very much the same way. So I'm sitting
yeah.
here with a very big smile on my face, like eagerly waiting, like, yes, here we go.
I love it. I love it. No, they're like my life. They just make life better, especially when they're color coordinated too.
There you go.
So so yeah. So we had practices 3 times a week. We'd have practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. And I'd also have two different groups. I had my A group and my B group. My B group were my younger kids, and then my A group was like my middle school to high school kids. And we would always overlap them for 45 minutes to an hour's worth of speed. And then the other rest of that time, so each practice was 2.5 hours. So the rest of that time was spent doing freestyles. And
Okay.
beyond that, we also structured our practices so that um, pairs were on certain days and singles were on days. We flexed around it. We were a small enough team that, like, if someone needed to be out for debate practice or something at school, we would switch it around. We just had to communicate a little bit. But for the most part, we overlapped for about 45 minutes to an hour of practice of speed practice, and the rest was freestyle.
So the younger
And then
kids were training with the older kids during speed?
exactly, yes.
And then would they
And
split off in the gym and work on separate things, but still in the same area? Is that how it went?
we would do all of our speed. I would run all the speed drills together. So there was a point in time where I was experimenting with percentages, and so I would have them. We would do it like a test at the beginning of the year or at the beginning of the season, and then that would be like their best number. And then each week we would test the 30 seconds or a minute or 3 minutes. So I would change it between each week as to which one we would test. And then I'd have them write down their numbers. And then based off of those numbers, I would have them do various speed workouts at hitting certain percentages of that score. So sometimes we would practice. I would start them practicing with just 10 seconds of speed, and I want them to practice at 90% of their max score, their personal best, and to be consistent with that. Like that was my goal, was to teach them consistency and to teach them what it felt like. What was 90% and what did that feel like? What is 80%? What did that feel like? And then also the value of tracking scores and to use that to see where they were. Because a lot of the times, you come away from a practice and you can reflect and you can say, okay, that felt pretty good, or that just felt like crap.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to have some way of looking at it objectively. So by having my kids write down the numbers, it put a number to their day. So, even though they may have felt like their practice wasn't great, like maybe they felt like, oh, I only got 400 or in 3 minute speed, or I only got 80. Well, you actually got 80 and you actually did it 3 weeks in a row. So I think that's pretty good. So
Yeah.
now let's work on hitting 81 consistently or 82 consistently. So I had all these numbers graphed out for them in a spreadsheet, and I would kind of plug and chug up my numbers as we would go throughout the weeks. But I really tried to harp on the value of consistency and tracking your numbers from day to day.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I was just having a conversation the other day with Emma on DM on Instagram, and we had the same discussion where we were chatting about speed numbers and stuff and the idea of tracking them, because once you hit that new number, right, your new personal best, anytime you get anything less than that, it feels like it wasn't a success. But in reality, what you're saying but what you're saying right now is exactly how it truly is you did raise the benchmark, and that's awesome, but understand that there are other benchmarks that exist and are applied differently day to day versus that one time you hit a personal best.
Yeah. 100%. Yes, I agree. And I think innately, as jumpers or as athletes, competitive athletes, we're kind of wired to think about the next best thing and what could be better instead of
Always,
being
yes.
present with, instead, yeah, you're right. Instead of being present with, okay, this was a solid practice. I accomplished X, Y, and Z, and now I'm going to take that with me to the next practice. And that's hard.
It's
It's really hard
very hard.
mindset.
That's the biggest thing that honestly that I struggle with the most, especially because I
Yeah.
tend to train, especially now, but in the past I used to train a lot solo by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of
Mm-hmm.
benchmarking and getting your mind straight is tough, even when you have a coach.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like the coach is there to also help you see objectively. Like, hey, you didn't have that, double under 2-footed frog last week. I know you didn't hit it 3 times today, but you will eventually. You just have to keep doing it, and you're looking stronger. And look at your speed scores. And I think that's another job of the coach, is to help the athletes see their skills for what they are objectively, and encourage them that this is where our focus should be, not on something that is going to bring you down. Will help you see it objectively and help you take the steps forward accordingly.
Did you ever train or have them train speed to go after a number and not listen to the time? I've tested.
Yeah,
Yeah, did you do that?
I did. So I've also played around with just having them go as fast as they can. And I don't even care how many times they miss. I want them to just go, and so that they can see what their body is capable of, because your body is always more capable than you think. So there are definitely times where I had them just do 10-second sprints. We would do like Tabata style.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. Or what we would do reverse Tabata as well. We do 10 seconds on, 20 seconds off of just sprinting. We would do a lot of stuff also by taking the rope out of the equation. We had the speed balls where
Yep.
we had those little weights on the end.
Mm-hmm.
But I would also just get their feet moving. And then I would also sometimes cross train a little bit with them. So I'd have them do other movements that would keep their heart rates up. But not necessarily jump rope. So we do like burpees or squat jumps or squats or push-ups,
Mm-hmm.
or even like frogs,
Mm-hmm.
to keep their heart rates up.
Interesting. Did you ever map that to specific intensity zone training, like for periodization in sport?
I don't know if I had any really method to the madness. It was more just trying to figure out what the kids needed for that day, and then
Mm-hmm.
trying to give them some sort of consistency.
Yeah.
You got to keep it simple, I think, with kids too. With kids or with even with older athletes, you just got to keep it simple.
Yeah, I've been playing with one of my favorite new ways of training speed has been 15 seconds on, all out effort, 100%, with a 1 minute rest times like 10 rounds. And I've noticed that I personally don't like to take rest because I want to keep going, right? But I'm learning that
Yeah.
in terms of that sprint is like running a sprint on a track. And in order to get, this, very well, I'm imagining that letting your body recycle the ATP and get your energy back up, that rest period needs to be very large if you're doing that kind of a thing. And I've been testing that out a lot. And that 1 minute rest between those 15 seconds is incredible. I was running it the other day. Yeah, I ran it the other day. And I think out of the 10 sets, 9 of them, nine of them were in the 40s. And then of those 9, I think 7 of them were 42, and then the remainder was a 41. So it was within one jump of consistency. And I'm always curious to look at the numbers after I work out, because I want to know if the workout worked, right? Back to what you're saying about tracking numbers and stuff. And it did. And it blew my mind, because there's actual intensity zone training applied,
Yeah. Like giving your body just enough time to rest up and then do it again, so that your body gets that high intensity and then gets the repetition as well. Like something that I did with the kids for a little while was when we were working up to 3-minute speed, or even I did it for 1-minute speed as well, or even 30 seconds. I would do either 10-second chunks or 15-second chunks or 30-second chunks. And I wanted to hit a certain score. And then I'd give them we would start with a minute of rest maybe in between, or even 45 seconds. But then week by week, I would shorten up that period of time, that rest time in between, until they were doing bigger chunks, like 20 seconds at a time, or, a minute at a time at these higher paced intervals until we peaked at competition.
That's interesting. It's also cool because I've noticed for me personally, having a number that I'm chasing after is a very different mindset and drive during speed versus I need to get through X amount of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like chasing that goal versus I just need to get through this completely changes my scores.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Another fun thing that we used to do, I have all these different things, right?
Yes, I like this so much. Like we're geeking out over workout structure and I'm loving it.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. This is the stuff that I thought about and I think about like every day too. Is so for like double Dutch speed or even single rope speed, we would have the number to hit in mind, but I wouldn't care about the time. I wanted them to have that number and hit the number, and then we would rest, and then you would hit the number again and then rest. And I mean, that taught our kids a lot of different things. It taught them consistency, but it also taught them what does it feel like to go at this pace. And I would cut them off at a certain time. But it really helped bring, I think, more awareness and being more present in the actual event versus chasing the time, right? Because a lot of us will hear that beep or listen for the split.
Yep.
And it kind of creates that reaction, that sense of urgency of like, oh God, I gotta go, right?
Yep.
Versus if you're just going for the number, it just trains you to think more about the number versus you're on a time clock.
It's also, to me, it seems very similar to track and field, where you would have, like, you could say like a 400 meter event, right? It doesn't matter. Like, it goes back to you have that distance or the number of jumps, right? It's set, and then your time is the variable. And I like that idea of hitting a realistic number and seeing how fast you can get to that number. Because that makes you push in a much different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. And then I think one last thing that we used to do was to train to a number, but then you have to get no misses. If you missed, you'd have to start over.
Oh, that's brutal. That is brutal. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They must have loved that one.
Oh yeah, that one was rough. And especially for double Dutch speed, we would do that because, I mean, as you know, with misses in double Dutch, like that can really make or break you, especially if your transitions aren't quick. Mm-hmm. So that taught them to go at their pace and to go at a pace that they're confident with. And when you do that over and over and over, you will find that pace, but then you'll build the confidence in your paces, and then you'll be able to push it further down the line even more. So it taught them a lot of things.
Did you do any specific, I guess, like psychological or mental shaping work with the athletes?
We didn't do a ton. I know that when I was competing, I did a fair amount of visualization. Mm-hmm. Like we would visualize I would visualize all of my events actually. Like we would visualize our speed events. We would visualize a perfect routine. And it's something that I had the kids do every now and then, but not as much as I probably wanted to. Also, kids sometimes just need to move.
Yeah.
especially when you see them after school, they're like all worked up and they're ready to go. So visualizing was sometimes not the easiest thing to do with them.
Not a good option. And you've competed internationally, right?
I have, yes.
What can you kind of describe? The different events that you've done and how you've placed and stuff.
Yeah, sure. So I've competed at, I think, 5 different world championships. The very first one that I competed at was in 1999. It was in St. Louis, Missouri, and that was the first FISAC World Championships. And
Oh, that's
then,
so cool.
yeah, it was pretty rad. It was in a hotel. We had sport court in a ballroom.
Yep.
They had a person at the timer up front with a little honker for the 45-second mark
Oh my
for your
gosh. That's
freestyle.
great.
It was literally one of those little honkers on like your on like a bike.
No way. Are you
That was
serious?
great. Yeah, not even joking. It was someone manually honking a little horn.
That's amazing.
It was great. So that was a great competition. I was on a team of 4 people, and we competed in the senior mixed division. And I think we placed like 3rd out of 3 teams. So it was a fun competition.
Still placed 3rd, right?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, no, it was great. It was a great, I think, competition. And I think the one thing that I learned most from that competition was to eat better and make sure that I eat food during competition. That's important. And then that was 1999.
Real quick.
Yeah.
How did you learn that? Were you like gassed out in the middle of competition and just trial by fire?
Oh, yeah, pretty much. I mean, at that point, so I was in 8th grade at that point. 8th grade, you're still trying to figure your life out. I mean, high school, you're still trying to figure life out.
I feel like you're always trying to figure your life out. Let's be real.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, you're totally right. So at that point, I was that person that I just didn't want to eat during competition at all. Like, I didn't want to eat. Like, I was nervous. I had that like pitting feeling in my stomach, and I just didn't want food. And but there was a point in time during like mid competition, it was after we finished some speed events, where I was just sitting in my chair next to my teammate, and I turned to him. I'm like, I think I need food. I'm hungry. And he's like, okay, let's get you food. Like the whole time my teammates had been taking care of me and trying to get me to eat food, but I just refused. But at that point I was just like, wow, I feel like crap. I'm tired. I'm like, I just feel lifeless. I feel groggy. And I'm like, I just think I need to eat some food now. So I ate some food and I started eating from there, and 100%, I did so much better after that.
Nice. There you go. So the secret sauce of doing well in competition is to eat food.
Yes.
Fuel your body.
Fuel your body and drink your water.
That's funny.
That was the first competition. That was the first World Championships. And then there were several more after that. We traveled to Australia in 2004. Actually, before that was in Belgium. So we went to Belgium for another World Championships, and that was 2001 or 2. I can't remember which year. But we also, it was the same team. We went in the senior mixed division, and I forget what we placed that year. I think we placed 4th. And then the year after that, a couple years after that, 2004 was when we went to Australia. So at this point, both of my teammates were older than me. They were both in college or just about to graduate college, and I was just about to graduate high school. So this was like our last hurrah. We're like, okay, we're going to do this. Like, we want to win. We've been working together for 15 years at this point. And 2004, we went as in the senior mixed division, and we won 1st overall. And then I also, and that was just, there's nothing better in the world than feeling that you're at the top of the world. Yeah. And I also went individually as well that year. So that's where everything's like, the last 3 years of high school was when everything really started to come together. You learn a pretty big sense of discipline and hard work and work ethic when you've been working at something for that long and working with teammates for that long. So that year we decided was going to be our year. So I also went individually, and I placed 3rd individually overall. So that was a rocking year for me.
The first place, that was with the double Dutch team, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Can you describe the different events that you guys competed in?
Yeah. So there were, events have changed so much since then, I feel like.
Yeah, they definitely have.
there was a speed relay event. So that's 4 people on a row doing 30 seconds of individual speed. And then there was a power event, 30 seconds of double unders. I think. I might be wrong on that. Don't quote me on that one.
Is that
But there was,
two people doing that or four people doing that?
I believe it was four.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there was also double Dutch speed. And it was that weird 4-person double Dutch speed where we
Yeah.
had, like, you had to figure out a configuration of, A, B, C, and D. A went first, came out, B went in next, and then C came in from a different direction, and then D came in last.
Hmm.
So that was, I think, 40 seconds of double Dutch speed each person. And then there's a single rope pairs freestyle, which I did with one of my other teammates. So it had to be a female and a male. And then there was a 4-person single rope team event.
Hmm.
And then there was double Dutch singles and double Dutch pairs.
And then you guys took first place overall with all those events
Yes.
considered.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So the way that they scored it, yeah, it was amazing. The way they scored it was you got a rank for speed and then you got a rank for freestyle. And so after speed, I think we were neck and neck with another USA team. And then we edged over them during freestyle. We
Nice.
nailed our 4-person routine.
How did you train freestyle? What was the process?
For that competition specifically?
Yeah, for that one, and then if it changed at all, I'm curious how that has evolved.
Yeah, so freestyle is tricky, especially for team, especially if you're in different parts of the country. So I had a teammate that was in, I think, Washington, D.C. I had a teammate that was at Northwestern in Illinois. And then I had another teammate that was in Washington State.
Wow.
And then I was in California. So we, during a jump rope camp, actually, the summer before that competition, we all got together at the jump rope camp and we choreographed everything. We literally choreographed every single routine. And
Wow.
we also choreographed
camp?
them to music. Yeah, we choreographed them at camp. I mean, we spent a lot of the airplane ride over to jump rope camp choreographing the simple things to music.
Okay.
And our freestyle formations we choreographed so that when we got to camp we could just practice. So we spent a lot of that jump rope camp choreographing on our own time. Of course, not much of your own time, but we still figured it out. And then we got together during our winter break for, I think it was 2.5, maybe 3 weeks. And then we got together during our spring break. And then the competition was right after school ended.
Man,
pretty much.
that is, but that's not uncommon in the jump rope world, right?
No, it is. It's not uncommon. I don't know how it is nowadays. I feel like it's still moving in that direction of, kids are graduating from high school. And so they're creating teams at different college settings or from different states. But yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. You have to be very prepared. You have to plan ahead and you have to make sure that your parents are invested in all that.
Yeah. Seriously.
They're the ones that are paying for your plane tickets and everything. So there was a lot to choreograph amongst that. But I had a strong leader. Our oldest encore, he was our ringleader. He was the one that organized everything and really drove us forward to the win.
Man, it's funny because you guys took first, but it's just so interesting how there's so much work that goes into that. And it's also interesting from my perspective that you weren't even working together day in, day out,
Yeah. No, it's crazy. And I mean, I've been competing with 2 out of the 3 people that we competed with that competition. I'd been competing with them since I was in 4th grade, I think.
Okay.
So we knew each other really, really well. It was that 4th person that changed from championship to championship. And that's the person that we had to kind of bring on. And with each person that we brought on, we had different routines because that person inspired different things. And that's what the fun of it too, was you got to work with somebody different. But there was a lot invested, I think, in that competition that came from previous years of competing together.
And then in between meeting up with the team that you said over spring break and winter break and camp, individually, was each teammate just drilling the routines, or
Yeah.
what did that look like?
Yeah, yeah. We were literally like filming ourselves. This was kind of when YouTube kind of started being a thing. Like you could send videos to other people. So we would video ourselves, and if we had an interaction part, we would literally pretend that we were interacting with that person
Wow.
to that choreographed beat, and we practiced alone. Literally practiced alone. Like my pairs, we practiced alone. We had it choreographed. The four person we practiced alone, and then really when we got together, the main focus was the double dutch, and getting that squared away, because you can't do double dutch by yourself.
Right.
Except for, I mean, if you have a power part in the middle, then you could practice your power part by having other turners turn for you. But that's pretty much it.
And the power part would be strength skills like handstands and
Yeah.
push-ups.
Yeah, or splits or aerials or round offs or whatever. But that's really the only thing that you could practice on your own if you had a pair of double dutch turners to turn for you.
And I really want to underscore that, because that whole practicing alone is, I'm very impressed, because it's very difficult to do that and to push yourself that way, because it's one thing to show up to a gym and work out and put in some sweat equity and make some moves forward in terms of your freestyle skills, but it is a whole other ball game to show up with the intention of winning a competition and just drilling that routine over and over and over, back to what we were talking about earlier, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I think we had been working towards winning a world championships for so many years, and that year that we decided in 2004 to move forward with the world championships, we really sat down and had a very serious conversation of, okay, if we're going to do this, we have to do this, and we've got to do it right. We've got to plan it right, and we're not going to leave anything up to chance. Like, this is going to be the year, and that's the mindset that we had in the entire year, and that's what made us connect consistently in between the times that we weren't together. Like, okay, what are your speed scores looking like? What have you been practicing? This is what I did at practice today, to make sure that we were on track. But it took a lot of work, a lot.
That's what I've noticed with a lot of the champions, not even champions just in jump rope, but in other sports as well, gymnastics, CrossFit. I've spent a good amount of time just chatting with them, and that the way the brain works, that thought process of a champion is exactly what you just described. It's so, it's very intense, but it's also very practical.
Yeah. And you have to be, because I mean, life is life. Like, I was in high school, my teammates were in college. Like, we all had other things to do. We have family, we have friends. But this was something we've been working towards for such a long time, that we made it that priority our year. Like, that was our year to win, and we did everything possible to ensure that happened. And that's the mindset we had to go into it. If we didn't, then, I mean, we might as well just not have competed, because we wanted to win that year. Yeah.
And then did you take that? I'm curious how that translated into the soul jumpers when you were coaching them. Would you?
Yeah.
Did that play a role at all, or how so?
I think that mindset was something that was very special to us. I think that what I've seen, I mean, generations change. There's different, I think, personality traits and different work ethics and different kind of perspectives on life from generation to generation. And the way that I really worked with my kids was, we had the motto of practice like you compete. And that means you show up and you practice like you compete.
And that sounds so simple, but it's not.
Yeah, I know, right? It's so simple, but it's not. And I actually had that written on their handles of their jump ropes: practice like you compete.
Really?
And,
That's really cool.
And it's something that I think we lived up to for a long time. But at the same time, the more that I've coached and worked with people and kids in jump rope is to really just let the kids be kids as well. let them have fun, let them, try out new things, and not be afraid to miss, to let them feel comfortable being vulnerable and putting themselves out there, and showing the class a couple tricks that they learned for the day, and having everybody clap. And I think that was the most important thing that I brought to the table. And of course I instilled the value of hard work and discipline and mindset for these kids, but at the top of it was just being positive for one another and being happy, and and learning something and being better a little bit every day.
Man, that's so good. I like that so much. This is so much fun. I think now is probably a good time to ask the same question that I asked everyone.
Yeah.
What is jump rope for you?
Oh man, the question. So I thought a lot about this, and I love so I forget her name, the first person that you interviewed.
Sunny?
She said, yeah, Sunny, yes. She said jump rope is life. And I literally was thinking the exact same thing when she said that.
Oh, nice.
But I'd like to elaborate, I think, on that a little bit more. And like, to me, jump rope has given so much to me, and something that I want to pay forward. And like, now in my life, I work in a corporate setting, but I literally, everyone that I work with knows that my background is in jump rope. It's actually on my resume as well.
Is it really? That's awesome.
It
Wait,
is.
what did you write?
Yeah, I literally have World Jump Rope Championship, World
That
Jump Rope
is
Champion
so cool.
2004, because I mean, it's a conversation starter. And I mean, there's so much behind that, right? We talked about the value of hard work, discipline, being intentional, being positive, being patient with yourself. Like, it's taught me everything. And jump rope has been with me in every sort of transition in my life. So when I was a kid, jump rope was there for me to teach me self-confidence, and to be brave and to be courageous. And then furthermore, when I got to competing more and to being more serious about competing, it taught me the value of hard work and discipline and communication even too. And then also leadership, and kind of knowing your why. And then moving into college, it really just taught me to have fun. It brought me
Yes.
back to my why of, why do I jump rope? And that's because you get to meet so many different people, and you get to have fun with it. And everybody can jump rope in some way, shape, or form,
Yep.
and that's what I love about it. And you can do it anywhere. And then that's what really started connecting me to more people post college. So then after college, when I started working, jump rope was kind of there to teach me leadership and mentorship, and developing people, developing kids, developing adults, developing teenagers, developing myself. And that's what's brought me to my job today, is jump rope. So that's why I think jump rope is life.
Yeah.
Because it's been with me through every stage of my life, and it's taught me so many different things. And whenever someone asks me about jump rope, there's some sort of story that I can tell that where it has taught me something.
Man, that is such a great answer. I'm just sitting here like smiling, like, yeah, like I understand that too. Like, that's awesome. That's amazing, man. Well, it's just such a good spot to pause on, but it's so true that, yeah, jump rope has shaped everything, and as a sport, it just drives so much into you.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what I absolutely love, what this sport has done for me, but then also other people. And it's created a community, and it's created just good people, a good community and good people. And that can make a difference, right? Like, you see like Mike Fry, going off and do his one world wonder rope. And you see all these other different, Instagram people now with different styles of jump rope that I've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Or you see jump rope in the CrossFit community. And it's something that I think just is a conversation starter that can connect people together. And that's why I love it so much.
Well, Literally, there couldn't be a better way to kind of wrap up than that. So thank you.
Yeah.
That was great. This has been such a fun conversation. I'm so glad that we've got to catch up and chat jump rope for an hour. This has been so awesome.
Yeah. And thank you so much for doing this, for doing the podcast that I've always wanted to do. And I love that someone's doing it now, because it's such I think like social media is such a good way for people to connect now, to be inspired, to be motivated, to be driven in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we need right now as, I think, a world, is just to be more connected with each other. And that's how we're going to make a difference.
Yeah,
so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate that. You're so nice.
Yeah.
Well, I think I know this has been a phenomenal conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time and chatting with me today.
Of course. Thank you. Look forward to hearing your other podcasts too.
Yes, definitely. All right, we'll catch up later.